working in a world-class team.
Now, another challenge you face is on the size of government. You know, you've talked already with me about the investments made in housing, for example, and that's going to increase. I know it's a huge part of the public budget. Education, you know, I mean, British politicians are in the election, they say we're failing in education, look at Singapore, and they cite your amazing exam record and your numbers of skilled graduates and the way in which you skill up your people. So you invest huge amounts in education. If you look at the figures, you know, your government is actually an advocate of massive state spending. I mean, that's the way you run your country. And because you've got such a successful economy, you've managed to do it without, you know, with budget surpluses until last year, where you just fell into a deficit. And I don't know whether you are worried that looking forward, particularly if you mix demographics with the size of your government and the ambition of your government, you are going to run into real problems.
So, I think we're a very interesting case of a country that has low government spending, by the way, by most standards, as a percentage of GDP, low taxes.
Well, as long as your GDP keeps climbing.
Yes, but our starting point is not a bad one. We've got relatively low government spending and revenues, but we are able to achieve the social outcomes that countries with much larger spending do. And how do we do it? I think one of the very important lessons of the last 50 years is that traditional concepts of welfare and social expenditure and government intervention have led to a weakening of private initiative and personal responsibility. Not because that was the intent. It never was the intent. It was never the social democratic intent to weaken private initiative and family responsibility. I mean, look at the Scandinavian countries. They used to be amongst the most hardworking countries in the world. The Swedes were incredibly hardworking, industrious people.
You're using past tense, are you? Have Swedes become lazy, or what's
present active tense. They're a good society in many ways, so I didn't mean to.
Well, Swedes will get the chance to comment on this in a moment.
They're a good society in many ways. And they're willing to pay high taxes to keep their system going. But the point is, there are ways in which an active government can intervene to support social mobility, to develop opportunities, and to take care of the old, which doesn't undermine personal and family responsibility. And that's the compact that we're trying to achieve. It's almost a paradox.
You mean you're a bit more ruthless, is that what you're saying?
No, we are achieving a paradox of active government support for personal responsibility, rather than active government support to take over personal responsibility or community responsibility.
Do you believe in the concept of a safety net?
So we believe in a concept of support for you taking up opportunities. So we don't have unemployment.
I believe in the sometimes simplicity of yes or no answers. What about this idea of a safety net? Do you believe? Does Singapore believe in the notion of a safety net for those who fall between the cracks of a successful economy?
I believe in the notion of a trampoline.
Yeah. So people are just bouncing up and down in Singapore.
No, I mean, it boils down to what policies you're talking about. If you provide help for someone who's willing to study in education, to study hard, if you provide help for someone who's willing to take up a job and work at it, and make life not so easy if you stay out of work. If you provide help for someone who wants to own a home, and we are very generous in our grants for home ownership, which is why we have 90% home ownership. And amongst the low-income population, more than 80% own their homes. It transforms culture. It's not just about transactions. It's not about the size of grant. It's about keeping alive a culture where I feel proud that I own my home and I earn my own success through my job. I feel proud that I'm raising my family.
It is a
keeping that culture going is what keeps a society vibrant.
Yeah. Actually,